2 years ago, he threw me out calling me a charity case, saying he'd marry a rich woman instead. I was seconds from ending it all on that bridge when a stranger's hand pulled me back. Tonight at the gala, my ex saw me with that same man, now my husband, a billionaire. He begged. I didn't even look back. If you've ever felt worthless after someone threw you away, this story will give you hope. Stay until the very end, because what happens next proves that your darkest moment can lead to your greatest blessing. Hit that like button if you believe in second chances at life and love, and subscribe because you won't want to miss what happens when karma comes full circle. My name is Elizabeth, and 2 years ago I was ready to die. I know that sounds dramatic, but when you're standing on a bridge at midnight with nothing left to lose, drama becomes reality. But let me start from the beginning, because the ending only makes sense when you understand how low I had fallen. I was 26 years old when Jason decided I wasn't worth keeping anymore. We'd been together for 3 years, and for most of that time, I thought we were building a life together. I thought love meant weathering storms side by side. I was so naive. 3 months before he threw me out, I lost my job at a small retail company. Budget cuts, they said. Wrong place, wrong time. I tried everything to find another job. I sent out hundreds of applications, went to dozens of interviews, but nothing worked out. The economy was rough, and I had no special skills that made me stand out. Jason started changing. At first he was supportive, telling me it would be okay, that something would come up soon. But as weeks turned into months, his patience wore thin. The comments started small. Did you even try today? Or maybe you're not looking hard enough. Then they got sharper. I can't keep carrying dead weight forever. Each word was like a small cut, and I was bleeding out slowly, losing pieces of myself every day. I remember the last day so clearly it still feels like yesterday. It was a Tuesday evening around 7 o'clock. I had just gotten another rejection email, and I was sitting on his couch trying not to cry. Jason came home from work, and I could see the frustration on his face before he even said anything. He didn't ask about my day. He just stood there looking at me like I was something disgusting he'd stepped in. "We need to talk," he said, and my stomach dropped. Those 4 words never lead anywhere good. He told me he was done. Done supporting me. Done waiting for me to get my life together. Done pretending we had a future. But it wasn't just the breakup that destroyed me. It was the way he did it. He started throwing my things into a bag. Clothes, toiletries, the few personal items I kept at his place. I begged him to wait, to give me more time, to please not do this. I had nowhere to go. No family. I grew up in foster care and aged out of the system at 18. No close friends in the city because I'd moved there for Jason 2 years earlier. No money saved because every penny I had went to helping with bills before I lost my job. "Jason, please," I remember crying. "I'll figure it out. I promise. Just give me 1 more week." He looked at me with such disgust that I felt it in my bones. "You're nothing but a charity case, Elizabeth. I'm done being your meal ticket. I'm going to marry a rich woman, someone who can actually contribute something to a relationship. You're pathetic and worthless." Then he physically pushed me toward the door, shoving my bag into my arms. I stumbled out into the hallway, and he slammed the door so hard it echoed through the entire building. I stood there, shaking, listening to the lock click into place. Some of the neighbors had opened their doors, watching the whole humiliating scene. I could feel their pity and judgment burning into my skin. I walked the streets that night with nowhere to go, one small bag with my entire life in it. I found a bench in a park and sat there for hours, watching the sky turn dark. I thought about calling a shelter, but the idea of admitting I'd hit rock bottom was too much to bear. I already felt like nothing. I didn't want to confirm it by standing in a line for a bed among strangers. Around midnight, I found myself walking toward the river. There's a bridge there, old and tall, stretching over dark water. I'd crossed it 100 times during happier days, never thinking it would become the place where I'd consider ending everything. But that night, Jason's words kept repeating in my head. Charity case. Pathetic. Worthless. Maybe he was right. Maybe the world would be better off without another useless person taking up space. I climbed up onto the railing. My hands were shaking and the wind was cold against my face. I looked down at the water below, black and endless. I thought about how quiet it would be down there. No more rejection, no more failure, no more pain. I closed my eyes and leaned forward. That's when I felt it. A strong hand gripping my wrist, pulling me backward with such force that I fell onto the concrete walkway of the bridge. I was crying, screaming for whoever it was to let me go, to let me end it. But the person didn't let go. He held my wrist firmly and then slowly helped me sit up against the bridge wall. "Please don't," a man's voice said, gentle but firm. "Whatever it is, it will pass. Please don't do this." I looked up through my tears and saw him for the first time. He was tall, maybe in his early 30s, wearing an expensive-looking coat. His face was kind, with concerned eyes that actually seemed to care. I didn't know who he was or why he was there, but something about his presence made me break down completely. I sobbed into my hands, and he just sat there next to me on that cold bridge, not saying anything, just being there. We sat like that for hours. Eventually, I told him everything. About Jason, about losing my job, about having nowhere to go. He listened to every word without judgment, without trying to fix anything, just listening. When I finally stopped talking, he introduced himself. "My name is Adrian," he said, "and I want you to know that you're not worthless. You're hurting and you're lost, but you're not worthless." He took me to a hotel that night, got me a safe room, and told me to rest. I was too exhausted to argue. The next morning, he came back with breakfast and a proposal that changed my life. He offered me a job as his assistant at his company. I later learned that Adrian was a billionaire, the CEO of a massive tech corporation. But that morning, he was just a kind stranger giving me a reason to live. "Everyone deserves a second chance at life," he said. "Let me give you that chance." He arranged a small apartment for me and gave me an advance on my salary. I was hesitant, confused by his kindness, but I was also desperate. I accepted, and that decision saved my life. Working for Adrian was different from anything I'd experienced before. His company was professional, respectful, and he treated everyone with dignity. I threw myself into the work, determined to prove I wasn't the worthless person Jason said I was. And something amazing happened. I was actually good at it. I was organized, creative, and intelligent when given the chance to show it. Adrian noticed, and within 3 months, I'd gained confidence I didn't know I had. He checked on my progress regularly, always professionally, always encouraging. The company provided therapy benefits, and I started seeing someone to work through my trauma. Slowly, piece by piece, I started healing. After 6 months, Adrian promoted me to executive assistant. I was thriving in ways I never imagined possible. But something else was happening too. Adrian and I were spending more time together. Coffee meetings turned into long conversations about life, business, and dreams. Shared lunches where we'd talk about everything and nothing. He valued my opinions and actually implemented my ideas. I started to see him differently, not as my rescuer or my boss, but as a genuinely good person who was humble despite his wealth. I was terrified to feel anything for him. What if I was just grateful? What if I was projecting? What if he didn't feel the same? But the feelings grew stronger every day. 1 year after he found me on that bridge, Adrian took me back to that same riverside. My heart was pounding because I didn't know why we were there. He turned to me, and his eyes were filled with emotion. "This is where I found the most precious thing in my life," he said softly. "Elizabeth, I've fallen in love with you. Not because I saved you, but because of who you are. You're the strongest, most resilient person I know. You survived what would break most people, and you came out the other side shining. I love you, and I need you to know that you're not a charity case. You never were. You're everything." I cried, but this time they were tears of joy. I told him I loved him too, that I'd been afraid to admit it, but the feelings had been growing for months. We started dating, and it was the healthiest, most beautiful relationship I'd ever known. He treated me as an equal partner in life and business. I continued advancing in my career, taking business courses, learning about investments. He encouraged every dream I had. 6 months into our relationship, he proposed. It was private and intimate, just us watching the sunset from his penthouse balcony. "Marry me," he said, "not because I saved you, but because we saved each other. You gave my life meaning, Elizabeth. You showed me what real strength looks like." I said yes without hesitation. Our wedding was small and elegant, filled with people who genuinely cared about us. I wore a beautiful cream-colored gown, and when I walked down that aisle toward Adrian, I felt like the luckiest woman alive. His parents embraced me like I'd always been part of their family. Our vows were about second chances, about finding light in darkness, about building a future together. I became Mrs. Elizabeth Adrian, and my life felt complete. 2 years after that night on the bridge, Adrian and I were hosting a charity gala for our foundation. We'd started it together to focus on suicide prevention and job placement programs for people in crisis. It was my passion project, and Adrian supported it wholeheartedly. Tonight was the big fundraising event, and I was nervous but excited. I wore a stunning champagne-colored silk gown with diamond jewelry Adrian had given me for our anniversary. He looked incredible in his tailored tuxedo, and the way he looked at me still made my heart skip. We arrived at the grand ballroom in our car, security following behind. The venue was breathtaking. Crystal chandeliers, an orchestra playing, the city's elite gathered to support our cause. As hosts, Adrian and I greeted guests, mingled with donors, and I gave a speech about second chances that moved many to tears. I shared my story anonymously, talking about someone who'd stood on a bridge ready to end it all, and how one person's kindness had changed everything. The standing ovation was overwhelming. Adrian watched from the side with such pride in his eyes, and I felt like I was exactly where I was meant to be. After my speech, I was talking with potential donors when I heard a familiar voice behind me asking for my attention. Something in my chest tightened. I turned around, and there he was, Jason. He stood there in a suit that didn't quite fit right, looking completely out of place among the elegantly dressed guests. His jaw was literally hanging open as he stared at me. I could see the wheels turning in his head, trying to process what he was seeing. "Elizabeth?" he stammered. Is that really you?" I felt nothing. No racing heart, no panic, no anger. Just nothing. It was the strangest, most freeing feeling. "Hello, Jason," I said calmly, my voice steady. He couldn't stop staring, his eyes darting from my gown to my jewelry to the stage I'd just been standing on. What are you? I don't understand." His eyes landed on my wedding ring, a beautiful diamond that caught the light. He followed my gaze as I looked toward Adrian, who was talking with some business associates across the room. Recognition dawned on Jason's face. Adrian's face was well known in business circles. That's Adrian Westwood," Jason said, his voice barely a whisper. "You're married to Adrian Westwood?" His face went completely pale. The famous billionaire, the tech genius, the philanthropist, and Jason realized he was looking at that man's wife. "Excuse me," I said politely. "I have guests to attend to." I started to walk away, but Jason followed me. "Elizabeth, wait! Please." His voice was getting louder, desperate. People were starting to turn and look. As I walked through the crowd toward Adrian, Jason called out loudly, "Elizabeth, please wait." The music seemed to quiet. Conversation stopped. Everyone turned to look. And then, right there in the middle of that elegant ballroom, surrounded by hundreds of the city's most influential people, Jason dropped to his knees. "I'm so sorry," he cried out, tears streaming down his face. "I was wrong about everything. Please forgive me. I made a terrible mistake. You were never a charity case. I was the worthless one." The ballroom went completely silent. I could feel everyone's eyes on us. Adrian appeared at my side almost instantly, standing close, protective but calm. His presence steadied me. I looked down at Jason kneeling there, and I felt a clarity I'd never experienced before. No anger, no satisfaction, no pain. just peace. Jason, I said, my voice clear and steady, I forgave you a long time ago. Not because you deserve it, but because I deserve peace. He looked up at me with desperate hope, but I wasn't finished. You called me a charity case. You threw me away like garbage. That night, I almost didn't survive. I stood on a bridge ready to end my life because your words convinced me I had no value. I paused, feeling Adrian's hand gently touch my lower back in support. But I did survive. And I found something you'll never understand. Real love, real worth, a real life built on respect and partnership. Jason started to speak, but I held up my hand. I don't need your apology, Jason. I don't need your regret. I needed you 2 years ago, and you weren't there. Someone else was. Someone who saw value where you saw burden. Someone who saw strength where you saw weakness. Adrian gently took my hand, intertwining his fingers with mine. I hope you find happiness, Jason, I said, and I meant it, but you won't find it with me. That door closed the night you slammed it in my face. I turned away from him, and Adrian and I walked toward the balcony together. I didn't look back. Not once. Behind us, I heard security quietly asking Jason to leave. I didn't care. That chapter of my life was so completely closed that seeing him again was like running into a stranger. Out on the balcony, under the stars, Adrian wrapped his arms around me. Are you okay? He asked softly. I smiled, and it was genuine. I'm perfect. Because I realized something in there. I feel nothing for him. Not hate, not anger, not even satisfaction at how far I've come. Just grateful that his cruelty led me to you. Adrian kissed my forehead. You led yourself to me. You chose to survive. You chose to heal. You chose to grow. I just had the privilege of being there to witness it. We stood there together, and I could hear the gala continuing inside, the orchestra playing, people laughing, life going on. We'd raised over $2 million that night for suicide prevention. My story, shared anonymously in my speech, had inspired dozens of people to donate and several to share their own struggles. Now, as I stand here 2 years later telling you this story, I want you to know how it all turned out. Adrian and I are expecting our first child. Our foundation has helped hundreds of people get back on their feet. I'm a co-founder of a non-profit that's making a real difference, and I wake up every day grateful to be alive. Jason tried to contact me several times after that night. Emails, messages, even showing up at our office building once. I blocked him everywhere and had security turn him away. I didn't do it out of spite. I did it because I genuinely have no space for him in my life. My life is full of love, purpose, meaningful work, and peace. That night on the bridge when I was ready to let go, I thought my life was over. I couldn't see past the pain, past the rejection, past the feeling of worthlessness. I didn't know that sometimes the worst goodbye leads to the best hello. I didn't know that the person who breaks you isn't meant to fix you because someone better is coming. If you're in a dark place right now, please hear me. Your life has value beyond what anyone has told you. The person who called you worthless was wrong. The situation that feels permanent is temporary. The pain that seems endless will eventually ease. You just have to hold on long enough to see it. I'm not going to tell you it's easy, because it's not. Healing is hard. Growing is hard. Facing another day when you want to give up is incredibly hard, but it's worth it. On the other side of that pain is a life you can't even imagine yet. Maybe it won't look like mine. Maybe it'll be even better. But you have to stay alive to find out. If you're watching this and you're in a dark place, please hold on. Your life has value beyond what anyone tells you. If this story touched your heart, smash that like button and subscribe for more true stories of hope and transformation. Comment below, I'm worthy, so we can support each other. And if you're struggling, please reach out to a suicide prevention helpline. You matter. Your story isn't over. Sometimes the person who breaks you isn't meant to fix you. Someone better is coming. Keep living. Keep fighting. Your miracle might be just around the corner. See you in the next video.